How's it going, guys? It's your boy Mike from Seattle, and I have with me today a good friend of mine. We talk on Instagram all the time. He's a contractor, he's a handyman, he knows how to get things done, he knows how to work for landlords. And what I wanted to talk with him today, what I wanted to talk about with him today are the 3 red flags that you as a landlord should be looking out for when hiring a contractor or a handyman to make sure that you don't get taken advantage of, you don't get scorched on a deal, and they don't walk away with all your down payment money and leave you high and dry. So let's welcome Chris Godwin, the owner of Laser Focus Solutions, to the show. Chris, go ahead and say hey.
How you doing, guys? Well, thanks, Mike, for having me on.
Dude, happy to have you here, man. We chat all the time. But okay, Chris, I know I put you on the spot. What's the first of 3 red flags that landlords should be looking out for?
Well, I think the first one is to make sure that that individual is licensed and insured. A lot of times people want to bring in that handyman. I see it all the time in my local community, even on our local Facebook groups and Nextdoor apps and all those things. You know, people advertising their services, but really in reality, you know, it's quite a liability and a risk you're taking as a landlord or even a homeowner when you're hiring someone who is not licensed and insured. So that would be my number one red flag is ultimately, you know, when you're hiring someone like myself at Laser Focus Solutions, you know, I'm licensed, insured, and bonded. You know, there's a backing behind that, right there. You know, we stand by our work. You know, there's a guarantee. You know, so that's the first red flag I would certainly put out there is making sure that individual is licensed and insured.
Now, I'm going to ask you a couple follow-up questions because I've been asked many times about how I source my handymen contractors in Gary. And if it's an actual contractor, that's something I'm going to use for much larger jobs, maybe the roofing, something like that, or a full-scale remodel. I always go with somebody who's licensed, bonded, insured, has a storefront, a business front. However, I have given the opinion, not the advice, I have given the opinion before that when it comes to painting, certainly when it comes to my lawn care, and when it comes to something like laying the flooring, I don't always go with someone who's licensed for smaller, simple fixes like that. But if it's electrical, if it's touching a gas line, if it's plumbing, any of those, and like short of replacing a faucet, plumbing, I'm always looking for the person who's licensed. Do you think I'm wrong about that? Is there any room for error in there?
I think it's personal preference, really. But for me, again, being in the market that I'm in and where I'm at, you know, I think that's the value add that I can bring to the table is that, yes, it is difficult to find insurance as a handyman. First of all, a lot of insurance providers don't want to insure a handyman, and I'm stipulated to work within certain guidelines. So what I've done is to be that small job, small task list, punch list type guy that you still has value for you. You know, I've partnered with some licensed electricians, some licensed roofers, some licensed, you know, contractors as well, to where if I need to pull them in, I'm still a resource for you. But unfortunately, I have seen some clients and some landlords that haven't used licensed and insured contractors. And, you know, again, when I say the risk per se, I haven't seen anybody go back on them from a legal perspective. But that was the first red flag that someone said to me, man, I should have never hired that person because I got burnt, you know, by them taking my money and not coming back, or not being, you know, it's a side job for them. It's not, their commitment isn't there, right? All those things is what I mean when I say that, Mike. I mean, as far as, yeah, painting and that kind of stuff, I mean, you could hire your brother to paint, you know what I mean, if he's good at it, you know what I mean? Right. But from a liability perspective, from a warranty perspective, from a guarantee perspective, all those things, there's just something that validates when you hear licensed and insured. That means that person is invested in what they're doing for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. And there's more ramifications if they don't do it right, because now their business is on the line, their reputation is on the line, all that type of stuff. So, and I will absolutely concede the point that the safest option is always going to be going with someone with the storefront and the reputation and the actual license bonded and insured company. But then again, there's the argument, which is landlords are also trying to figure out ways to try to save money to make sure they can make money. So it's a difficult battle I think most people have that they have to have in their own mind. And at the end of the day, I always advocate any serious work, major work, anything at all that could come back with injuries. You know, if they don't cut the grass right, it just looks ugly, right? But they mess the electrical up, the house can burn down, you know? Absolutely, I'm with you there. Chris, what would you say is the second red flag that landlords need to look out for if they're trying to avoid getting taken advantage of?
I've had customers call me up and actually ask me where they've gotten other trades come in, and people are asking for, a heavier deposit up front, or several draws on a job and haven't even started yet. So those are all things that really depends on, just understanding how that company does business, right?
Mhm.
For me, if it's a larger job like a deck that I'm doing, I'm going to ask for a deposit, right? But I'm also not going to ask any for any more draws until the job's done. Now, I went behind a competitor, let's say, um, who wasn't licensed and insured, and he basically advertised that he could build this deck, and the customer hired him, and then she called me up a few days later and was like, I should have just went with you. Oh my gosh, I got such bad vibes, blah 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 blah. And unfortunately, she had to cancel the check and go down that rabbit hole, and it just got really nasty. So, it's unfortunate, but I think that's where it was, right? I mean, she gave him a deposit for it, and then he came back a couple days later and was like, "Hey, I'm going to need another draw," and he hadn't even started the project yet. So that was a little bit on the sketchy side. And she did reach out to me and asked me, "Is that normal?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what other companies' practices are, but it doesn't sound correct, right? So make sure that you're not giving any more than 25 to 30% on a project up front. You really need to understand what you're giving the funds for, if that makes sense. You know what I
Right.
mean?"
Yeah, no, and that's actually probably something I'll give a real world example here so that people can conceptualize a little bit better. When I worked in granite, in constructing granite and remodeling kitchens and stuff, we would ask for 10% down. Okay, we've agreed to a sale contract. This is what we're going to do. We're going to remodel your kitchen and your backsplash, provide you with new sink, new faucet. We would ask for 10% down, and then we would order everything. Now, if the customer backed out, yeah, we've ordered stuff, but we can probably resell it, right? No, not a huge loss to us, and some of it might even be able to be returned. Now, then we would go out to their house and take all the fine-tuned measurements to actually cut the granite to their specifications. Once we've cut that granite, it can't be resold. We can't really reuse it. It was cut to fit their house. And so we would take 10% down, and then at the midway portion where we would actually cut the granite, we would request 40% down. So now we've got 50% from them, but we wouldn't collect the final 50% until the job was done and they had inspected it with us, gotten their questions answered, and then they write us a final check or we charge their card a final time. What do you think about that process? You think that sounds about right?
That's 100% correct. Yeah, and that's really how you got to have proof of concept that again, the company's doing the work on the back end. As you just said, that whole process, it felt right. If I was the client, I would feel good about that process. Yeah, I mean, that's just something that you really got to be cautious about. Again, some companies, unfortunately, they're taking the funds and they're using it on the next job. You know what I mean? They're just trying to
Right.
keep their business going, kind of thing. But
Right.
you want to make sure that those funds are going towards your project.
Right. Right.
You're getting the
Exactly.
results that you need, right?
Yeah, yeah. So just, for the people out there watching, this is a great conversation to have. And a lot of people are doing more and more remodel projects. Make sure you're not paying too much up front. That is a fantastic point. All right, Chris, third and final red flag that landlords need to watch out for when it comes to dealing with handymen and contractors.
Well, I think it could be number one in a way, but really doing your research, doing your due diligence, looking for reviews and that kind of stuff, right? I mean, you really want to understand, again, back to proof of concept, is this person good at what they say they can do, right? Some people are very good at getting in front of you and making it sound like they can do all the right things.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that's where we are in this market, is saturated with a bunch of trades that people go out and market themselves. So for us, when I put my homeowner's hat on, or I'm on the buying side, I want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence and I understand, is that company a professional? Do they have good work? Are they have skilled staff? Are they doing the right things? All those things. So in my case, I chose to be Better Business Bureau accredited, right? So some people say it's valuable, some people say it's not. But for me, it's another value add conversation of, hey, I'm paying into a service to show that I am A1 rated, and I have professional website. Every one of my jobs is done. I happen to pay for a professional CRM that so for you in Gary, Indiana, and you're living in Seattle, you would know when I'm on my way to your location, because you would get a push notification, right? When I'm
Right.
there, you would get a push notification. When I'm done, you would get a push notification. And then when I'm completed the job, you could pay with an invoice, right online with a push of the button. And then my system sends out a Google review, a review link, right?
Mhm.
So those are things that not every company is going to have, but companies do have the opportunity to give reviews, and you should certainly do your due diligence to understand what that market, what that reputation is in that market, right?
Yeah, no, due diligence on who you use is extremely important. I always tell people that my favorite way to vet people is to just go to my network and ask, who have you used? Because word of mouth, since the dawn of time, seems to be the #1 preferred way for both the business to get new leads and customers, and for customers to get new leads and who they should go buy from. Word of mouth trumps everything.
Yeah, that's how my business has grown. Full transparency, I just started paying into Google Ads, as I said to you offline a little bit ago. I just did it just to try to see what it would do, like how much flood of influx of business would I get. But up until that point, I've had no paid marketing. It's all organic, all referral based.
Mhm.
And you're absolutely right. Especially in my area, in Middletown, Delaware, there's communities with 300, 400, 500 homes in them, and they all have their own little Facebook groups and little, ways to talk, right?
Mhm.
Clubhouse, poster boards or whatever. And I hear myself getting mentioned a lot, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. I'm mentioned on their Facebook page. I don't even have access to it. You know what I mean? So you're absolutely right. When you hear good things, that's what you want to follow, that trend for sure.
So I'm going to help the audience out here and do a solid for them, and while also helping you out. So for those of you who are watching this, Chris has recently started his own YouTube channel talking about being a handyman and those types of things. And he's committed to making a video a day for the next 45 days. So what I'm going to ask people here to do is to go follow his channel and leave a comment on one of his videos asking your handyman questions, asking your repair questions, asking your contractor questions. That way he'll have a video topic to cover, and your question will probably get directly answered from a professional. But first, Chris, tell us what the YouTube channel is and how people can find you.
So yeah, thanks, Mike. Basically, I am on at Laser Focus Solutions is what it says here on the YouTube page. So if that's the way it goes, Mike, that's the way it is.
No worries, man. And I will put a link for it in the description down below. But Laser Focus Solution, you guys also will probably see him in the live stream chats for Dion or the Lumberjack. Occasionally, I see him in there. Somebody I've been talking to for a number of years, haven't met in person yet, but we've been talking to because we do our virtual networking here on this channel. Chris, man, thank you so much for coming on the channel, answering these questions, helping out landlords. Any final words of wisdom before I let you go?
No, man, like I said, I think it's certainly encouraging to get in the audience of yourself and others. I've talked to Lumberjack Landlord once or twice as well, Dion once or twice as well. So to your point, I get on as many of all of the calls that you guys have out there, and do my best to comment when I can, and just take it all in. So really, from a handyman perspective, it's an honor to be on this side, just being a part of what you guys have to offer. So I appreciate it.
Dude, thanks for coming on, man. And hey, we'll catch you next time.
All right, buddy. Thanks.